Hello and welcome to Force Connecting, a series where I connect with other queer Star Wars artists and talk about everyone's favorite faraway galaxy, as well as their work within the fandom. Today, we are queering cosplay with Justice Schiappa.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Happy to be here. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk with you.
I'm excited to talk with you too.
So one of the first things I love to ask any queer Star Wars fan is their introduction to Star Wars and if that at all intersected with the queerness or if that came in later.
I feel like it I don't think I was conscious of my queer identity when I started with Star Wars, but it definitely wasn't like understated either, I guess. I've had the grateful opportunity to never really have been like in the closet, so to speak. My mom always just let me kind of vibe and do my own thing as a kid.
Great.
So I was just, I think like age 5, it was just Legos, bam, cool. And then I started on the path of Star Wars Legos after I saw Phantom Menace, because I watched them in numerical order: 1 and 2 on VHS, 3 in the theaters, and then 4, 5, 6 on
That
VHS.
Is incredible. I've never seen Revenge of the Sith in theaters, and the day that the time that when that comes, whew, I'm excited.
It was I know I have earlier theater going memories, but it was that's the one.
That's great.
I remember it was like one of the new theaters in like Carlsbad, California, and they had like holographic like fish on the floor.
Oh, work. Okay, yeah.
Like in the lobby, and I was like, this is so cool. And I remember my mom's friend that I had gone with like covered my eyes during the immolation scene because it was like too much. I was like, no, I wanna see. Mind you, I had nightmares about burning Anakin for years.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see why. I would probably too if I watched it that young. Yeah. My introduction to what I find interesting too about, and I don't know if it's specific to younger fans, but I do feel that my introduction to Star Wars was Legos in a really big way. I mean, it was the prequels, but it was also Legos. Legos were so entwined with that. So I just think that's funny. Like I remember, I think I got most familiar with the stories of Star Wars through the Lego Star Wars video games. So it's just kind of a funny thing. I mean, really though, because I remember actually what's so weird is kind of related but not related is I remember my earliest memories of Star Wars are driving to Legoland. In the back of my friend's car, and they had one of those 90s TV car TVs, and we were watching the prequels. I think it was Phantom Menace on the way to Legoland, and then I would play the original trilogy Lego video games all the time before I even saw the movies. So I knew everything that was going to happen, and then I watched the movies. I'm like, oh, I remember that part of the game. It was a very weird backwards way to be introduced, but that's what it was. So when did your queerness come into the picture? In relationship to I assume you've been a fan of Star Wars your whole life. So when your queerness sort of came more to your forefront of sort of just your navigation of identity, did that have any impact on your experience of being a fan of Star Wars?
I think so, because I think it was 4th grade, 5th grade where I started to be boys, cute. And Anakin Skywalker was very much pivotal to that, I would say.
I would say arguably still is personally. So I
yeah. And my secret shame to this day is that I was a big Corky Kryze stan and still kind of am.
I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. I'm so here for it. No shame.
So there was a bit of Corky Kryze fan fiction around 5th grade, which I feel is not a time I should have been. But I mean, I was writing it. I wasn't sharing it, but I wrote a whole story for, I don't know what class it was. 4th through 6th grade is weird when it's just you're in the classroom just doing things all the time. But I had a 15-page story about Corky Kryze crash landing and getting stuck on a planet made out of cheese.
Incredible. Very 6th grade. Very 4, 5, 6. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And there's a mouse king hunting him and a female Mandalorian at the same
Love that.
time. So
Great.
vibes.
Great. Well, I'm gonna headcanon that as Bo-Katan, and we'll just tell ourselves that's who that was. So, how did your queerness affect your navigation of fandom, or have you like? I guess it's kind of a weird question because I guess it depends on how much you were involved in the fandom itself.
Yeah.
But did it have any influence on your navigation of fandom?
I am kind of like recent, I guess, to fandom in a larger
Mm-hmm.
space. Like I've followed some Empire at War YouTubers for like 10 years now
Mm-hmm.
or something. But I really only got into Twitter big time like in March really of last year when there was no more outside.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I just started seeing like how like passionate people were about it on Twitter, and like I am a Tumblr kid, so coming
Mm,
from that
absolutely.
sphere, and
Yep.
like it's nice. Honestly, I feel like when I was in high school, it was only me and my one other friend that liked Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
which was hard to believe. I mean, we also went to a high school of graduating class of 26, so like small.
Whoa. Very small. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Star Wars was always like a very insular experience, I guess, for me. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
my thing that I did by myself. I remember going to Celebration Anaheim in 2015
Yeah.
and just seeing like 70,000 other people that love something just as much as you do, all gathered together. There's no visceral feeling like it.
Yeah.
Uh, and sometimes I get that from fandom online, sometimes not.
Yeah.
But most of the time I do, and it's really wonderful when new stuff comes out and everybody's just so excited, and it's just really nice that there's
Absolutely.
community in it.
I know what you mean about March of 2020 being a pivotal moment for like online fandom because it really did. I've never connected with more people like about Star Wars than that time period. So it's
Yeah.
kind of been a cool thing to have during everything going on.
It's like it reminds me a lot of kind of being 16, being on Tumblr in a
Yes.
way,
In a
of
way.
like I have more time to like I guess dedicate to a thing that I actually care about.
Yep.
But it's like before I would like maybe scroll through Twitter when I was like on a break from work or like in the bathroom as people do.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, that's cool. That's a great meme. Great. But now I like recognize people by their icons. When they change their icons, I get really confused for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Like, who is this?
Yeah.
But also just like being able to see more fan art and stuff is always like I love fan art. I
Me
am
too.
not an artist myself. I wish that I was, but not my skill set.
Yeah.
And I just it's great to just have so much like more.
Yeah, and also like you said, having the time to like actually connect with other people too, because like
Yeah.
having like online relationships with other fans is such a special thing, and it's also something that takes time. So it's nice to have the
Yeah.
time to actually like sit down and be like, oh, like let me write like my friend. Do you know what I mean? Who like
Yeah.
they're like my Clone Wars friend. I always go talk to them about Clone Wars. I go talk to them about Mando. So yeah,
Which is really nice too, because I find that Star Wars fans, at least in my experience in person, will have like their niche. But
yeah,
as somebody that dabbles in it all, it's nice to be able to have that. It's like, this is the Clone Wars person, this is the
yeah.
Rebels person, this is the Clone Wars and Rebels person
Yes,
that freaked out when that thing happened.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And then when did your cosplay come into the picture? And when did you sort of get into cosplay? Or was it always a thing? You know what I mean? Because the definition of cosplay is something that it could always have existed.
Halloween was always my favorite as a kid.
Absolutely. Yep.
My earliest like costume, I had the like electronic Captain Rex helmet, phase one
Oh,
helmet, and the
absolutely.
like the Target zip up costume. And then
Yep.
actually I went to the Halloween bash at Legoland
Oh,
wearing that,
fun.
and
Very cool.
I was like, this is my jam. I was 9 years old. It was fantastic. Um, but from there, it was Celebration Anaheim actually in 2015.
Cool.
That was my first kind of foray. I foolishly, I think now, entered the cosplay contest, not
That's
knowing
amazing.
how like insane other people were,
Yeah.
and I had a Barasafi cosplay that I was very proud of then. Looking back, there are edits I would make, but I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna do this thing. So I was Barasafi in that. costume competition, and then I also had a Zane Carrick closet cosplay, as
Oh,
I like to
cool.
call them, which is
Yeah.
just things inspired outfits, almost like Disney bounding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Things I put together from my closet. And I was always in love with Zane Carrick's design. It's my favorite outfit in the Old Republic to put on my characters. So it
Absolutely.
was a vibe. That
Oh
was
my God.
the beginning.
Okay, cool. So, and then did cosplay have any effect or influence, I should say, on your navigation of your queerness and identity, or not so much? Like was there an expression of your queerness through your cosplay?
I definitely think there was, because it was overlapping in this, I guess, kind of space for me of like coming out of freshman year and into sophomore year. I just started experimenting a little bit more with how I dressed and with gender presentation, because I had, as kids do, had a little falling out friendship thing at the end of freshman year. So in sophomore year, I was looking to rebrand.
Yeah.
I had just binged through Pretty Little Liars, which it was very informative of my personality today.
Yeah. Amazing. That was like me and Teen Wolf.
oh boy.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing.
So sophomore year was kind of my, like, I guess, turning point into like full queerness, I guess. Not that you ever really are, but you know, I took the plunge.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Barris wears a skirt. So for me, that was just like a cool moment to like be, I guess, walking around like the convention floor and not have people like assume that I'm male.
Yeah.
I've always, I don't know why, but even like as a kid, like people would just go back and forth. They'd be like, oh, like ma'am or sir, or like as young as like 6 and stuff, which is great. I've always had long hair. I've never cut my hair.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So, but because shrinkage, it's short.
Yeah.
But I was always just comfortable with both pronouns, I guess.
Absolutely.
Like I never saw being called she an insult, and like people would always be like, oh, like no, like that's a he.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't care. So to start cosplaying and like these powerful female characters that I vibed with, because of course I fixate on characters that have like maybe 15 lines of dialogue total.
Yeah.
I was able to just kind of express myself more a bit, which was really awesome. And then I remember the following year I started Seventh Sister cosplay, because
amazing.
Became a Buffy fan right before season 2 dropped, and then I was like, oh, vibes.
Yeah.
So I put together a Seventh Sister cosplay, and still one of my favorites.
That's the thing too that I'm really interested in, is cosplay is drag in a lot of ways. I mean, if not entirely, it's like it's more like story specific drag in a lot of ways. And so what's so interesting about cosplay for me, and something that I encourage to like anyone, because I've done some fair share of cosplays, but like I think the funnest thing about cosplay is that you get to embody a character that you love, period. That's what it is. And it's about character more than it is about worrying about whatever gender is or whatever anything means. You know what I mean? Whatever anything is told, is this or that. It's just about character, and that's what's like super, super cool.
It gives a lot of freedom, which like as an actor and like a kid who was like a theater kid, like it's very, you get put in boxes very young. I feel like, and especially like in a gendered way, like there's very little like opportunity for cross play, I guess. That doesn't sound like the right word, but we'll go with it.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of opportunities to portray the other gender in theater. At least
like gender bending roles. Yeah,
there isn't a lot of opportunity to gender bend roles, at least not at the high school level. College has been a lot better. But even this cosplay was this wonderful way that like, anybody can be these characters, especially ones that are like aliens with orange or yellow face. Like,
yeah, tell me two genders exist in Star Wars. They don't.
Precisely.
Yeah,
Precisely.
exactly.
Like, you're
Yeah.
telling me that droids, like,
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I couldn't agree more. And also, like, I'm also grateful you said that because I was a theater kid through and through as well. And like in high school, and even, I mean, before, from the day I was born, it was always frustrating, even on like a subconscious level, to be really attracted towards characters and wanting to play certain characters because they're these characters and they sing these songs and they go through these arcs, and I wanted to do that, and I was told implicitly that that was not even an option. So yeah, it's a really good point, and that is what's fun about college. And also, I think that might be something that is becoming more and more normalized, it being like gender bending roles in high school and stuff like that, especially because like with like Broadway Cares, Equity Fight AIDS, like fundraisers with like gender bending and Broadway Backwards and everything. I feel like it's a good way to sort of like normalize that for a high school level, which is okay.
No,
cool.
I definitely agree. I feel like theater and Star Wars were like very kind of influential. I feel like in the same veins, where it was like, why, like, I would see things kind of like 2015 era of like, what was the popular musical? Heathers was the big
very
thing,
big. Yeah.
2015. And there was a lot of like on Tumblr, like Heathers gender bending, like gender bending Heathers was a cool thing.
Yes.
And I remember being like, that's great. Why, like, more of this?
Yes.
And I loved my high school theater program, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But you always look back and there are like things that you wish you got to do a little bit more of.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah. So okay, so speaking of doing things that you wish you could have done, would you say that cosplay is something that everyone ought to try, specifically as a Star Wars fan?
I absolutely do. I think it connects you to the characters that you love a little bit more in just like this very personal way, that especially like going to conventions, it's like you are this character if you so choose to be, and you kind of embody their values or like their principles, or if you just want to be sexy and evil,
period
vibes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. That's the other thing too, is like another just reason to add to that list is if there's a character that you want to be more like, it feels so empowering to be able to live like them for a day or for however long you're in the cosplay. Like, it really is such a trippy experience where if you really commit and you really get into it, and I don't mean having the best cosplay, I just mean like energetically and spiritually commit to dressing up as that character, I think it really influences a lot of yourself. Like, it influences a lot of you even after the cosplay. There's a lot of lessons to be learned like as that character, and then when you get out of the cosplay, I think there's a lot of new things that you get to carry with you, which is such a beautiful thing about cosplay.
I completely agree. I feel that on such a level. Like in 2019, I did a not closet cosplay per se, but also not a full cosplay of Ahsoka. I got the head tails, but I was like, I don't know how to face paint, so I'm just gonna wear her universe dress and call it a day.
Love it.
But it was just like people were like, oh, you look so good, and I have a lot of imposter syndrome, as I feel like a lot of us do, especially like
absolutely.
You see fantastic cosplays, and it's like these people are like, oh yeah, like it just took me like 3 weeks, but I got it together, and you're like,
absolutely, yeah.
And sometimes it can be discouraging, but it's like going in just the head tails and the dress, and people being like, oh my god, like it was great. And it was like Ahsoka does carry herself with a lot of, I guess, confidence now, like in later seasons of Clone Wars, and especially as we see her progression, like she, even if she doesn't know what she's doing, she's gonna do it.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of something that I try to carry with me now, especially like as somebody that wants to work in entertainment. Like, people can tell when you're nervous, and it doesn't help, I guess, to feed into that. So just as long as you act like you know what you're doing, people will believe that you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as long as like Ahsoka, like as long as you're just doing it for like the betterment of something, you know,
Yeah.
bigger than yourself, then that's all you need. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, cool. So do you have a favorite cosplay? I know you said Seventh Sister, I think might be your favorite. Is that true?
Seventh Sister was definitely a lot of fun. I
Okay.
think Seven Sisters in my top four,
Okay. Okay.
maybe. Not me saying top four. Um, Also up in there was I was a cool knight in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I this great costume builder on Instagram, Atlas, built a Zakul Knight commission for me, and I took that to Celebration London, and it was great.
Iconic. That's iconic.
Um,
That is iconic.
and I don't have it here, but I had a saber pike
Mm-hmm.
with it, and
Mm-hmm.
it just it just felt so powerful.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's up there. Of course, Revan,
Yes.
non-binary icon.
Period. Absolutely. Yep.
I think we'll cap it at top three. Those are the top three.
Great. I love it. I love it. And then I guess I wanted to ask too about representation, because representation in Star Wars is something that I think is getting a little bit more attention, especially in video games and novels. But do you think that cosplay is a way to sort of create representation, at least within the fandom?
I definitely think that it helps create the space. Like I remember going and walking around the booths. Oh, I'm doing the Obi-Wan thing. I remember going and walking around booths on a convention floor, and like I forget exactly like which costuming group it is, but it was like they had a book of like all the like queer characters confirmed or close to confirmed
Right.
otherwise.
Right.
And it was like it was just great because you have Afra,
Yeah.
Holdo, Revan, and just I don't know. I think it helps like bring the queer community together to
Yeah.
like be like like these are these identifiable queer characters, and then
Yeah.
like when you're out on the floor, you see people cosplaying. Like it's an easy kind of way to just like feel seen because you're like if that person is cosplaying Holdo, they probably are like a Holdo stan, which means
Yes.
also being a stan that Holdo is pan,
Yes.
or
Yes.
different things like that. It's nice. Like whenever I see handmaiden cosplayers, I'm like,
Yes.
vibes.
Yes, you get it. Yeah, it's like this unspoken thing where you just kind of get it. Yeah, I agree. And there's also like, and that's another thing too. I think I've noticed over the past year is just that like there are so many queer Star Wars fans, and it's such a beautiful sort of corner of the fandom that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm grateful for it. It's very cool. I guess one of the last things I have to ask you is like how your identities and your cosplay and your love of Star Wars all intersects, and how they intersect and how they influence your navigation of the fandom from here on out. Because I know you mentioned that you're sort of, or at least over the past year, have dug in deeper to like fandom in a bigger way. So how do those things sort of mix together and influence that navigation?
I Star Wars on a large level like has influenced what I want to do with my life. Like I want to be a creator, I want to be a storyteller, and cosplay in that way has also given me like soft construction of clothing skills. So
Yeah.
I've done a lot of costume design to like complement my writing and otherwise. So it's very much been like kind of guiding both the things I want to do professionally, but also in like engaging with fandom. All of my favorite medias are ones with like fans. Like you don't hear NCIS fans like going on about stuff all the time,
Right.
but the Vampire Diaries fan art, Star Wars, Ruby, like these people are engaging with each other
Yeah.
about media, and it's so important to I feel like to have that community and be able to like have people discussing story and discussing content, even when like those discussions can sometimes get a little bit heated. They're
Right.
being had,
Right.
and people always are like, oh, like I don't like talking about like books and like doing high school reports, but you'll see people write like threads
Yes.
on background characters in a certain shot, and
Yeah.
that kind of textual analysis is really like important for the brain.
Yeah.
I
No, I agree completely.
so being able to go forward in just whatever way where I'm able to like interact with people and have discussions about character and catharsis and conflict and how those serve a larger narrative is going to be great. And if I can bring a little bit of design and cosplay into that, a little bit better.
Yeah.
Me running around as Revan with the trans flag attached to me is going to be my that's the
That
energy
is incredible.
2021.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Do you have any pictures or videos of that?
I don't, but I should soon.
That's amazing. Oh my God. That's such a, you know what? I don't even need a picture or video. I can just, it's such a clear image. It's such a clear vibe. I can see it. I love it. Okay, cool. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to add or dive into before we sign off?
We touched a little bit on games, and
yes, yeah.
I'd love to jump back to just talk a little bit about the Old Republic.
Let's dig into it. Fair warning, I am not as well versed in it than you are, but okay. I am ready to sit back and listen. Amazing. And I know enough. I know a little bit, but yes, yeah.
Well, I'll just overview with if you haven't begun to stand Theron Shan and Lana Beniko, you're doing something wrong with your life.
Yes.
Our queer legends. I love to pinpoint them as just really important characters in Star Wars because they kind of embrace, like, Theron has this sort of Han Solo thing going for him, but also is a disaster bisexual, so even better. And Lana Beniko as your Danger Sith Dom. That's
what it is. And that's what it is.
And that's what it is. Yeah. It was just, I don't remember the year offhand, maybe 2013, whenever Shadow of Revan came out and they became like main story characters. It was so fantastic to see because that game had been going for a while and they listened to the feedback and they're like, oh yeah, we can put some queer companions in there. And that's here awesome. Now, like, I feel like half of the available companions are queer. Even some of the ones that returned that weren't originally now have been patched in the expansions, which it's really beautiful, and I think there's something wonderful about a game that's able to evolve in that way because, like, at least in an MMO setting, you have the ability to kind of keep going back and, like, almost releasing, like, a director's cut over and over again.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, sometimes we'll have films or TV that doesn't quite hit everything that we wanted in terms of diversity, but you can't go back and shoehorn it in as easily. It's like going back, and not to go back to Harry Potter, but like, oh, not that. Thor's gay. It's like, well, it's not in the text. So and when I really loved, like, in Resistance, we got oh no, not me not being able to remember their names.
Are you talking about Flick and Orca, or Orca and Flick? Yes.
Orca and Flick.
Yes.
Dads,
absolutely.
First confirmed couple, beautiful. And like, they didn't even need to be explicit about it because they had that episode where they went to visit one of their parents, and it's like, oh, and you hate your in-laws, beautiful. That's it. That's it.
Yes.
And I feel like as soon as people, like, oh, hi, my cat came to say hi.
Oh.
Like, the more queer characters, meow, that you put into Star Wars and that you have in games or in books or in shows just kind of doing their thing, and it's not like about them being queer necessarily. People will start to be like, oh, these are people cool too. Vibes. Yeah. Especially when you have, like, awesome designs. Like, if Darth Talon was, like, the face of queer fandom, everyone would be like, yes.
Yes, there would be no question. Right.
No question.
Yeah. No, and that's another thing too, is I mean, representation obviously is important. I don't need to talk about that, but it's also in some ways it's a big ask, not in the ways that everyone thinks it is, but in some ways it's a big ask because there are the way to do it right is very specific and like you said, sort of like, it's not like their only trait and it's not the only thing that they're doing, but also, like, how do you write that in? How do you keep it organic? And how do you give it a multifaceted character? So it's a good thing to bring up.
It comes from having queer creators step into the space because they can tell those authentic stories. Because having you know, representation is great, but having it be hollow and like
Yeah.
caricaturish doesn't really help.
Yep. Yep. It ultimately does come down to the creative team. And I think that's also maybe why the gaming industry has been able to have a leg up on that. Is because I just feel like getting into like the gaming industry, I think has less gatekeeping than like film and television does. So I feel like that could be a big reason why we see some representation in games.
I definitely agree. At least in my experience, it's been a very like warm, kind of family environment in games. Like everybody's like you're all working to make something better, and even like voice actors for games, they'll like come into an audition and be like, "Huh, you know, I have a friend that would be great for this."
Oh, it's
As
great.
opposed to like film and television, it's like Cutthroat City.
Yes, yeah.
That is LA. It's Cutthroat City, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Games is very warm in my experience, at least, especially those that like focus on long form narrative and like exploring companion characters. Like, there's so much to dig into games. It's kind of you can't not have fully rounded out characters.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing too is, and I think some people, it's easy for them to look the other way when it comes to representation in video games, but it's actually incredibly significant, especially for hardcore fans, because of how immersive gaming is.
Yeah.
Like I just recently got into Fallen Order, and like I mean, I just completely lose myself. I mean, I'm fully like doing the thing that I'm doing in the game, and I'm not thinking about anything else. So it really is a powerful thing to have that kind of representation in games. I mean, everywhere, but definitely in games, and so grateful to have that.
Yeah, I had Canon Cow as by Ace, so
I
whenever
love
I'm
that.
playing, I get my full
Absolutely.
my full experience.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my god, amazing. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's all I have. So is there anything else?
No, this was wonderful. Thanks for
It's
having
so
me
fun.
on.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that wraps up this episode of Force Connecting. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to Justice for an incredible interview. And if you like this video, please go ahead and click the like button and subscribe to the channel because I post new queer Star Wars videos every Friday. Thank you so much for watching, and Gay the Force be with you always.